Boker Tov, everyone. Ve'asu, ve'asu li mikdash ve'shachamti betocham ve'asu li mikdash ve'shachanti betocham ve'asu li mikdash ve'shachanti betocham ve'asu li Mikdash ve'shachanti betocham. We are building in the Torah right now. We're in Parshat Vayakhel Pekudei. We're finishing out the entire book of Exodus. And we are, in effect, by this time next week, finishing out, according to many commentators, a year. Because in the Torah, we are told that actually the beginning of the year is going to be next Wednesday night, Thursday, is the beginning of the month of Nisan. And I know Mariposa Dueñas yesterday spoke a bit about this. I'm going to hopefully continue and add a little bit more to this important time transition. It's not important because I think it's important. It's important because the rabbis called it a special Shabbat. Not only is it Parshat Vayakhel Pekudei, it is, and not only is it Mevarchim HaChodesh, right? The Shabbat before when we announce a new month, it is a special Shabbat called Parshat HaChodesh. It is the Shabbat where we announce the fact that we will be marking time using months, using the moon. And it is said in our texts, and I'll be reading these, but they'll also be in the chat, and there's a link to the sources and the source sheet. From Exodus 12, verse 22, HaChodesh hazeh lechem. This month will be for you, Rosh Chodashim, the start of the months. Rishon hu lechem lechodshei Shana. It will be the first of the months of the year for you. And the Nitivot Shalom, Rabbi Shalom Noach Berezovsky, a contemporary rabbi, Hasidic rabbi, he died only in 2000, wrote specifically about this Shabbat, Shabbat HaChodesh, and I want to share with you some of what he said. I have personally found it incredibly meaningful. He said, during the year, there are many times of hitchadshut, renewal, and you can hear the same root in chodesh, chadash, hitchadshut. There are many times of renewal that in them a Jew can renew themselves like a bria chadasha, like a new creation. The month of Nisan is the most capable of renewal, more than any of the other months of the year. In it, one is capable of renewing even in their most difficult problems, the ones that during the rest of the year they wouldn't succeed in changing or solving. And some of you might be thinking, wow, That's amazing. But what about Elul? What about Tishrei? What about the Jewish months that we think of as the beginning of the year and the preparation for the beginning of the year, right? What about Rosh Hashanah? Well, he's going to go even further because the month of Nisan is the month of loving God. I just want to, oh my gosh, it is the month of loving God. It is the month of um, when we read Song of Songs, Shir Shirim, during Passover. It is the month of loving God in the way of Ani ledodi v'dodi li. I am my love's and my love is mine, which famously, if you take the first letter from each of these words, spells Elul. This is seen to be the Elul thing. Why is it for Nisan? He says, during this month, God's love awakens for us, and we are capable of awakening in our heart love for God. And then he says this, which I haven't seen anywhere before, and I'm really struck with this year. He says, and behold, the first 10 days of the month of Nisan until the 10th of the month are like the 10 days of tshuva in Tishrei. The first 10 days of Nisan, before we even get to the Seder, when some of us will be cleaning and purchasing and planning and stressed out, that is dafka, the 10 days of tshuva, before you even get to the Seder, on a parallel with the 10 days of tshuva between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. In Tishrei, the 10 days of tshuva are from yirah, awe or fear. In Nisan, they are the days of tshuva from ahava, from love. What might this mean? The way that I'm thinking about it, I'll say just a few things, and as I invite us into practice. What might it mean to return to our true selves, knowing that we are being held and supported by spiritual time, that somehow released in the ether of the universe is our power to love God and our power to feel loved by the divine. That somehow loosed in the atmosphere is an ability to work out our most difficult presenting problems. Personally, communally. What might that truly mean for us? And later on, the Netivot Shalom will say, there isn't a hierarchy here between the tshuva that happens in the fall and the tshuva that's happening here in the spring. He refers to the famous quote, Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chayim. This and that, they're both the ways of a living, dynamic, divine, and tradition. And so in our practice, I'd like to engage both of these qualities of yirah, of gvura, of boundaries, and discipline, and also of ahava, of chesed, of love and flow. So I'll invite you into your posture for practice. Sitting, standing, lying down. just with a gentle invitation to notice what's true in your bodily experience. What are the sensations of this moment? How might they be changing? What else might you notice? And for this practice, I'd like to invite you to choose an anchor for your attention. It might be the sensations of the body. It might be more specifically the cycle of your breath. If you're in a noisy place, it might be the sounds that you hear around you. But whatever the anchor of your attention, I'd like you to consider really taking this on, really inviting yourself to commit only to placing your attention on the anchor, the ever-changing sensations of the body, the breath, sound. Our practice is not a long practice this morning, and so we'll see how much we can commit to allowing our focus to reside in the present moment, just as we are, just this now. And knowing that our attention will wander, I invite you also to commit to loving kindness for yourself and your practice. Oh, my thoughts wandered. She mentioned Passover, and I started thinking about guest lists or preparations or whether there's matzah still. It's okay. Where is your anchor? What do you notice about this moment? Precious, ever changing. And if you notice that your mind keeps wandering, you can commit with gevurah, with yirah. I'm going to return. And if you're feeling a little tight or judgmental, you can soften with understanding and loving kindness. So we'll sit with commitment and gentle, loving kindness. Vasuli Mikdash Veshachanti V'tocham V'asuli Mikdash Veshachanti V'tocham. The month of Nisan, a month of renewal, also a springtime in the land of Israel, and for some of us, a springtime festival. What is the world we might be able to build as we read of the building of the Mishkan, as we embody and engage this month of hitchadshut, of renewal? Maybe the natural world can also be our teacher. Ruth Bryn wrote this poem. No one ever told me the coming of the Messiah could be an inward thing. No one ever told me a change of heart might be as quiet as new fallen snow. No one ever told me that redemption was as simple as springtime and as wonderful as birds returning after a long winter, rose-breasted grosbeaks singing in the swaying branches of a newly budded tree. No one ever told me that salvation might be like a fresh spring wind blowing away the dried, withered leaves of another year, carrying the scent of flowers, the promise of fruition. What I found for myself, I tried to tell you. Redemption and salvation are very near, and the taste of them is in the world that God created and laid before us. In this world where we are experiencing violence, dissension, fear, and suffering, may we also remember the promise of redemption, that it may be everywhere around us. May we be part of the world's renewal, and thus be a blessing to all. Ken Yiratzon.
In Yiratzon. Thank you so much, Dorothy. Friends, let's stay together for a few moments here to support those among us who are in mourning or observing a yard site. We really encourage everybody to stay present if you can. If you're reciting Kaddish, if you're in mourning, observing a yard site, if it's your custom to join, you're welcome to. You can put the name or names of those you're honoring today in the chat now or after we recite Kaddish. And if you're doing so, please join me by rising in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time.
Yitgadal,
Yitgadal, Yitgadash, Shemei Rabbi, Yama, Divrach, Yute, Venit, Malchute, Hayekon, Yamekon, Yetofal Beit Israel, Agalah,
Vasman Kareev
Karim,
Benu Amen.
Amen.
Shmei Rabba
Shemei
Mavarach.
Rabba,
Amel
Mevarach,
Maya.
Gamla Mel Maya.
Baki.
Bach,
Bisnase.
Bach,
Hadar V'Taleh Torah Shmei
Mishnase,
Kusha.
Hadar, V'Taleh,
Kodem Kata V'Shemata. Tush B'Kata V'Nekamata. Yom V'Yemenu.
Tav, Mechamat,
Man Rabba Min Shemayim
Man,
B'Chayim.
Ruth,
Yom Kol Israel.
Av,
Shalom Yamama.
Alim,
Yaseh Shalom.
Shalom,
Yom Kol
Ruth,
Israel.
Ruthim,
Shalom,
Seh Shalom Bimroma,
Shalom Bimrama,
Shalom Aleinu,
All
Yisrael,
Yisrael,
All Yosef Tevel, Ruth,
Yeshabet
Amen.
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 Be a blessing.
Friends, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're leaving us now, first of all, I neglected to mention at the outset, or to remind everyone that next week we will not be meeting live. We're on a hiatus next week. The whole IGS staff will be on a retreat. We'll be back a week from Monday, and hope you'll join us then. And in the meantime, of course, all our sessions are live streamed and the recordings are posted on our YouTube channel. So please take advantage and make use of the many beautiful offerings there, including the yoga studio. The yoga studio will be open on Monday with Kinnerlisi Shamash at 11 a.m. So that will be happening, and encourage you to take advantage of that, even if you've never done so. Lizzie is just an amazing teacher of embodied Torah. Whether you're a yogi or not, you'll really benefit from it. So check it out, Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Thanks to Harry Gilboa, as always, for his emunah, for holding us steady. And of course, as always, you're welcome to stay on. You can continue to sit with the beautiful guidance that Dorothy offered us. You can turn up the sound on your computer if that's what you feel called to do. That's great. And you're also more than welcome to join us for conversation or just take a moment to reflect on your experience with today's teaching and practice. Dorothy, thank you so much. And as always, someone wrote in the chat, you never disappoint. And I will say, amen. Amen. So I'd like to explore with you this a practice of teshuvah me'ahava, returning from love, and kind of maybe just go a little bit deeper into how we actually can experience that in this meditation practice. And if it's okay with you, I'm just gonna sketch it out for a second, like what was in my head as that was my intent, based on your guidance, that was my covenant. My intention was, okay, I'm going to return from love instead of from whatever else I returned from. So I'm going to just take us through it for a second and invite you to embellish it. So, you invite us to find an anchor, sensation, breath, sound, right? For the purpose of bringing awareness to the present moment. Sometimes I think about it as like a pendulum or a metronome that's going back and forth, and in the middle is the present, right? And my mind is going, uh-oh, it's in the past. Or like you said, planning the Pesach menu now, come back here. Or I'm thinking about all the things that went wrong at the Seder last year. What should we do to fix that this year? Oh, back here. And the key here is like what happens when we hear or hear. And so that tshuva from returning from yirah, which can be translated as awe or fear, which you said you were teaching is associated with Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. That the inner voice there, I'm just going to throw out for me is get back here. No. Oh no, you're off course. Come back. Whereas the inner voice of Tshuva Me'ahava is, oh, I miss you. Please come back. Um, to hear. And that's the difference between the experience of, at least in the mind. And also we feel that in the body, like the oh no is like, right? There's a little bit of a flinch. Whereas the invitation to come back is as if you're hearing a call saying, or you're getting a phone call from somebody, oh, I've missed you so much, right? It's like, oh, so nice to hear from you. Oh, that feels great, right? So that's where I went with that. I don't know if you want to, how do you respond to that? Like, how do you experience return from love to Shuva Me'ahava, as the Netivot Shalom is inviting us?
I think that's a beautiful way of describing the process. And the only thing I might add is my feeling about what we're doing in practice. And there are lots of different ways to understand what we're doing. But in terms of what the goal is it is not, in my view, to be able to sit quietly for ever longer periods of time. It's not a sport, but it is a way to actually change the voice in our heads, change that voice. And so sometimes the voice is saying, you can't do anything right. Why are you thinking about that now? The teacher said to think about this, and you are not doing it. You are failing at this, right? There's that whole like collection of voices. And so many of us hear it not when we're just sitting, but when we walk through the world, that's what is accompanying us. And of course, that affects our actions and how we approach others and what we think others are thinking and how we interact in the world. But take your other voice, right? The, oh, I missed you, you know, that loving, kind voice. Imagine that was the voice in your head always. That there was always, rather than this like judgmental critic there, there was always someone who wasn't like unthinking, but was like, oh, you missed that turn. There'll be another. You know, okay, you got distracted. That's what happens. But look, we've still got this time together. You know, and how would life be transformed if that voice was more present? As Sylvia Boorstein would teach, you know, what would life be like if your mind was a nice neighborhood? You know, it was a neighborhood you wanted to spend time in, right? That's what we're doing here. And so it's not a like extra little good thing to talk to yourself nicely in your meditation process. That's actually what we're doing. We're softening that other voice, or even at the beginning, just noticing what it is that that voice says to us. Since for many of us, we don't hear it, it's just there. And part of the beauty of the meditation practice is actually seeing what those thoughts are and noticing them as thoughts. And once we do that, we can work with them. Oh, can't hear you, Mark.
Not sure I muted myself, but I said to bring it back to where you started, that this is not a sport, that the point is not how many points can I rack up by getting to that, present moment, although that's a good thing, but actually change, whether that practice leads to liberation, and redemption, right? That's the teaching, really, that this is this season, and the beautiful bracha, the blessing you offered at the end, is about like, may it lead to that, that if we could train our minds or cultivate that aspect of ourselves, it will lead to that. And I also love that we both, Sylvia Borstein, both came to both minds, because I was thinking about that voice. I think it was Sylvia who taught that, like, when you're off course, it's like the GPS, just saying, the GPS doesn't say, if you miss the turn, the GPS doesn't say, you idiot, how could you have missed that turn? It says recalculating route, and in a very neutral way, or you could also say it in a very loving way. Oh, you missed it. Like you said, like, don't worry, there'll be another turn. It's coming up. So I really, really like that. But I do want to bring in Heidi's question. Great
Yeah.
question. I don't know if you saw it. Heidi wrote, over the past few days, these sits result in feeling like crying. Once I settle in, it's the only time I let these feelings arise. I don't see how I can enter a month of joy with this sadness. It's a fantastic question. Thank you, Heidi, for that. And I'm sure you are definitely not alone in that experience. Dorothy, what do you say?
I First of all, I put an oft quoted, for good reason, quote from my teacher, Rabbi Alan Lew of blessed memory, in the chat.
Ah, right. That's a great
And
one.
I wanna just say that often for me, crying just happens sometimes in practice. It can be connected to emotions. It can be just release of the body. Some people shake, and that's totally okay and part of what the body does when the body has space to move through all that the body is processing. And again, I think that Rabbi Lu makes a really important distinction when he says joy is not fun. You know, we think joy means like we have
Hmm.
these like rituals of what is fun, right? But that's not joy. Like joy for many of us, you know, the Shiva, the Shiva is one of the places of profound grief and sometimes the purest joy
Hmm.
of really being allowed to be in that grief and not having to turn it off and not having to make it fit into a work day or someone else's expectations. Just being able to sit in your grief with people who also loved that person who or who love you and support you, that in itself is a kind of joy, right? Because joy is not fun and joy is not happiness. Joy is fully felt. Um, Here we go. Joy is a deep release of the soul, and it includes death and pain. Joy is any feeling fully felt, any experience we give our whole being to.
Hmm.
That's what I think joy is.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's great. Also, I'm thinking, I thought of that quote. I also thought about the quote that came up yesterday, I think at the Daily Sit, definitely at our Wise Aging session from Francis Weller, that the
Mm.
work of the mature person is to carry grief in one hand and gratitude in the other, and to be stretched large by them. How much sorrow can I hold? That's how much gratitude I can give. If I carry only grief, I'll bend towards cynicism and despair. If I have only gratitude, I'll become saccharine and won't develop much compassion for other people's suffering. Grief keeps the heart fluid and soft, which helps make compassion possible. That's also one of my faves. But that said, um, didn't know that tears contain oxytocin. Interesting. Dorothy, it's an opportunity in the couple of minutes we have remaining, um, about what's the advice if we feel ourselves not just feeling sadness and tears flowing, but even feeling like overwhelmed by that, feeling flooded by that. What to do in practice when, and this might be trauma induced, right? When one is flooded and out of the zone of tolerance, where it might not be. Generally, we feel like we want to feel all our feelings fully, as that quote says. What happens when we do that and we're overloaded by that, would you say?
I'd say it would really depend on your experience. Um, if you're feeling overwhelmed in a way that you don't feel safe,
Hmm.
I would reach out to someone who can, someone, a trusted therapist, someone who can really meet you where you are and help you out of where you are. If it's that you're flooded and practice isn't going to work right now because I don't have control over my attention at all.
Hmm.
That's totally fine. That happens. If your eyes are closed, open them. If you can look at something in the natural world that's beautiful to you, look at something in the natural world. If you have a pet that you can touch, touch your pet. Basically, the idea is to ground in the present reality that's actually happening in something that is comforting, and something that helps you know no matter what's going on, are you okay right now? You okay right now? And sometimes just even some self-touch. Am I here? Am I here? Just kind of like touching the arm, touching the face, giving a little hug to the self, right? Those are in less kind of profound reactions. Sometimes that can be just enough to settle and to come back, from where you were. But if
Perfect.
it's sometimes you need help, right? Sometimes it's just really good to reach out to someone who can actually know your history and help you regulate.
Excellent. Excellent advice. Thank you for that, and really important. Okay, friends, we're at time, sadly. Dorothy, as always, thanks. I want to make sure we put the link to the Preparing for Passover program. This is a good jump start on that for folks. So if you're in the Bay Area, you can do it in person. Lucky you. If you're not, you can do it online. Highly recommend. So check that out. I'm also going to put in the chat link to a Google document, which is our daily sit birthday card. Yesterday, I invited people to share if you would like just some way in which you feel that your experience on the sit has touched you, impacted you, changed you, anything that you're feeling appreciative about. And I'm sharing that with the IJS staff internally, and been very meaningful. So if you didn't write anything yet and you'd like to, even if it's a sentence, um, we would please sign our birthday card. And that's it. And as I mentioned, we'll be away next week. Looking forward to be back a week from Monday. As always, we'll miss you. And thanks to each and every one of you for showing up, and especially Dorothy for this beautiful teaching today. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.